In the year 2050, nearly 10 billion people will be living in cities and urban centers according to the United Nations. With a massive demand for year-round, mass-produced and cheap produce to feed countless billions in the years to come, there's an ever-growing need for innovation in avenues of food production. And as we face the realities of changing challenges that nature has brought on our society, the human race is going to need to drastically re-evaluate the way it caters its basic needs, while allowing efficient and reliable technology and innovation to pave a path towards human survival in the future. With the planet's continued urbanization leading to the depletion of the world's rural areas where farming is predominant, cities now face the challenge of achieving higher levels of sufficiency. And while technology can help modern agriculture meet the food security requirements of the future, the city itself and the components within it must be able to adapt by pushing further towards vertical farming and urban agriculture. In this video, we're taking a look at big money in tech and farming in urban cities. Before we jump into it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to ring the notification bell for future Techtastic videos just like this one. As the world becomes increasingly urban, food demand will come mainly from people within cities. The rise in urbanization also means fewer rural farmers producing food on less land and less water, with urban eaters being the ones who consume most of the food produced globally and maintain more resource-intensive diets including animal source and processed foods. The demand for nutrient-rich, affordable food is higher than ever. These problems aren't just placed on the future prospects of urban life in future cities. These are problems our society currently faces, especially in highly urbanized areas where low income and informal communities endure hunger and malnutrition and the lack of access to affordable and healthy food. This scenario has been massively felt, especially in 2020, where the lockdown and quarantine periods of respected territories due to the COVID-19 pandemic has shown just how the access to food, especially in urban areas, is a plight to society that needs to be addressed immediately if we intend to prosper as a healthy civilization. Urban cities need to be self-sufficient and provide better linkages between rural and urban food systems. But it is still important to note the advantages of developing urban food systems that is totally self-sufficient, allowing tools such as new technology in order to provide the most basic of food requirements. With the global urban population blowing out of proportion in the last 70 years, from 751 million people in 1950 to 4.2 billion today, the ratio of people in cities to that of the farmers that fed them is a disparity with no end. This reliance on an agricultural industry set away from the urban setting is a disastrous imbalance that will pull apart the global food supply. The lack of sustainability also becomes a primary issue, with supply chains required to feed urban populations getting longer and more expensive, added to the fact that diets have changed throughout history due to the nutrition transition, due to the quote-unquote nutrition transition, due to unrefined food practices brought on by the demand for food grown and produced to last longer periods of time. And although we simply can't deny the fast-paced migration towards urban centers leaving rural areas in need of labor and land, a detachment of the conventional practices is needed to further the long-term survival of what we know as the city life. Consider it as a make-or-break situation that our society must be able to adapt or change the way we live in cities. If we still intend to make the cities habitable in the first place, urban centers should strive to become food producers and not just consumers. It is with this notion that the concept of urban agriculture has come to the limelight. Urban agriculture. Urban agriculture is the practice of cultivating and distributing food in a city. It's able to improve the local environment and benefit the community as a social and educational activity, while making a more resilient supply chain that may easily avoid disruption. This concept isn't your ordinary uncle or aunt watering plant boxes in the backyard. It's a whole-scale view of affirming the contribution of cities to growing food close to where it's needed, particularly within the city. Urban farming has been beneficial to community gardens in particular, where inner-city diets have benefited due to the access provided by these small farms, allowing communities to provide food for themselves, while improving the nutrition quality through fresh produce. After the age of 2020, and the situations we continue to face from the global pandemic to a spiraling climate crisis, gone is the practice of agriculture being seen as plainly as a rural practice. Urban living must now be able to embed and interact with the urban ecosystem and its limited resources. This allows residents to become laborers or urban farmers and use the array of common resources that are urban in nature, such as the use of organic waste compost and urban wastewater for irrigation, which also impacts ecology and the environment in a more positive manner as a whole. There are numerous kinds of urban agriculture in practice in society nowadays, from common backyard gardens where growing food is done on one's property of a standard home, to tactical gardens using small available spaces in a practical and inexpensive manner, to greenhouses, green walls, and rooftop gardens. The most famous practice that key players have been food within the urban landscape are vertical farmers. Currently, vertical farming is seen as a huge solution to the challenge to meet increasing food demand away from traditional means of production. Vertical farms. Vertical farms are now found everywhere around the world, from grow facilities built by developing startups to green agricultural design, incorporating farming spaces into buildings. Nowadays, it's quite common to see leafy greens in stacked rows that reach to the ceiling without natural sunlight or soil, providing produce in half the time it takes a traditional farm. Vertical farming companies are sprouting up around the world as well, and not only are they trying to supplement the demand for food production, they're also trying to change the way the vegetables are grown by incorporating the latest technology and using science to apply the best techniques in reducing the time it takes to harvest. Vertical farms are now high-tech grow houses, typically inhabiting buildings in urban areas with produce grown in stacks for local consumption, utilizing artificial lighting, climate control, and in many cases, an array of specialized techniques such as hydroponics, growing plants without soil, using mineral nutrient solutions, aquaponics, a modification of hydroponics where plants are fed using aquatic animal waste, and even aeroponics, growing plants in an air or mist environment without the use of soil. These are the most common techniques associated with urban agriculture, and aren't just practical, they're also a great means towards attaining an ecological balance. Vertical farms that use these specialized techniques use up to 95% less water than traditional farms, and also reduce transportation costs by 90%. Optimal results not only provide food, but also offer practical application of newer modern methods. The business and the tech. Vertical farms hold a great advantage over traditional farming. This is because seasonality isn't a factor, which is why this emerging trend in modern agriculture is becoming one of the biggest businesses in the world. Backed up by the growing demand for food and the advent of new technology that provides better profit margins, numerous companies and startups have now gone full vertical. Some urban farm units, such as InFarm, a startup based in Germany, provide farm units where vegetables are grown and placed directly where they are sold like groceries and stores. This alleviates plenty of levels from the growing, transportation, and marketing processes, since consumers pick the items straight from where it's grown. InFarm is currently in several countries, with close to 900 farm units in stores and distribution centers around the world. More than 250,000 plants are harvested from the units each month, with each plant's growing conditions controlled from InFarm's central hub in Berlin. Controls of these farming units are self-automated at each location and can be calibrated remotely through the cloud. Elements such as temperature, humidity, light intensity can be monitored by the InFarm head office. These processes provide the assurance of overall efficiency and resource use that can offset the initial startup costs and ongoing expenses, such as energy needed to provide ventilation and LED lights. And it's a constant evolving technology. A good example is the lighting apparatus. This is moving towards improving energy-saving techniques by tuning lighting to different wavelengths for different crops. Companies such as InFarm have seen a significant increase in sales of up to 200% growth for sales as of March 2020 compared to March 2019. In addition, global revenues in vertical farming is expected to exceed $22 billion by 2026. There's also the advent of new approaches and technologies to look forward to. Agricultural biotechnology, which innovates inputs for crops and animal agriculture, such as seeds, pest control, seeds with new genetics, and improved animal health, has been rising in trends. Mechanization is allowing farms to function far more efficiently with automation of robotics, drones, environmental sensors, and developments in growing equipment. Farm management software is becoming precise, providing capable sensing and intervening from environmental and farming data, and decision support software is available with big data analytics. As a matter of fact, better and improved farming systems with controlled environments, and aquaculture systems, and of course the eventuality of cell culture technology, can produce vegetable products and animal meat in large bioreactors housed indoors. These are just some of the modern innovations that continue to drive urban farming far into the 21st century. If there's one thing that the global pandemic has showed us, is that as our population continues to rise, the demand of global food production will rise with it, and having the means and sustainable alternatives is already here. The solutions towards urban farming are now more relevant. Vertical farms have shorter supply chains and are less reliant on human labor than traditional farming. If there's ever a time to transition to a more advanced means for our collective survival, this is it. What do you think about these urban technology advances in farming? How do you plan to get involved in this venture project? Leave your comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe with the notification bell for more Techtastic videos just like this one.